a 190-pound black Cane Corso that the entire neighborhood called a living nightmare wouldn't stop breaking into a newborn's nursery every single night at exactly 3 a.m. The parents tried locking doors, they tried baby gates, they even considered returning him to the shelter. But when they finally installed a hidden camera to catch what this massive dog was doing in the darkness, what they discovered didn't just shock them, it shattered every assumption they'd ever made about the most feared breed on Earth. This is Brutus, and this is the night he proved that sometimes the biggest hearts come in the most terrifying packages. Sarah Mitchell never thought she'd be that mom, the kind who second guesses every parenting decision, who loses sleep over things that haven't even happened yet. But holding her 3-month-old daughter Emma for the first time changed everything. Suddenly, the world felt dangerous. Every corner too sharp, every stranger too close, every decision critical. So when her husband Jake came home with the idea of adopting a dog, specifically a 190-pound Cane Corso from the local shelter, Sarah's answer was immediate and non-negotiable. Absolutely not. Jake had done his research. He'd read articles, watched videos, talked to trainers. They're protective, they're loyal, they're perfect family dogs. They're massive, Sarah countered, bouncing Emma gently against her shoulder. What if he accidentally steps on her? What if he gets jealous? What if he's exactly what we need? Jake interrupted softly. I see you haven't subscribed yet. That honestly makes me really sad. Sarah looked down at Emma's tiny face, her impossibly small fingers curled around Sarah's thumb. The thought of anything disrupting their fragile little routine, their safe bubble, made her chest tighten. But Jake was persistent. And honestly, Sarah was exhausted. 3 months of sleepless nights, endless feeding schedules, and the constant low-level anxiety of new motherhood had worn her down. Maybe she wasn't thinking clearly. Maybe she just wanted one less thing to argue about. Fine, she finally said. But the second I feel uncomfortable, he goes back. The shelter called him Brutus. Black coat, scarred shoulders, one ear that stood up while the other flopped halfway. The shelter director explained his history with careful, measured words. Previous owner kept him chained in a basement, used him for intimidation, never socialized, never loved. Sarah's stomach dropped. This was supposed to make her feel better? He's been here for 8 months, the director continued. Nobody wants him. Too big, too intimidating, too much baggage. She paused, meeting Sarah's eyes. But he's never shown aggression, not once. He's just waiting. When they brought Brutus home, Sarah established rules immediately. The dog stays downstairs, never in Emma's room, never unsupervised near the baby. Jake agreed without argument, installing a baby gate at the bottom of the stairs. For the first week, Brutus barely moved. He'd eat his food, drink his water, and then position himself at the base of those stairs, staring up at Emma's closed nursery door. It's like he knows, Jake whispered one evening. Knows what? That she's up there, that she's important. Sarah didn't respond. She was too busy watching Brutus's massive head tilt slightly every time Emma made a sound from upstairs. His ears would rotate like satellite dishes, tracking every coo, every cry, every tiny baby noise. Week 2 brought the crying. Emma developed colic, endless, inconsolable screaming that shattered the night into jagged fragments of desperation. Sarah and Jake took shifts, walking the hallway, bouncing, shushing, begging their daughter to please just sleep. Downstairs, Brutus stopped eating. He stopped moving. He just sat at those stairs, rigid as stone, listening to Emma scream. He's stressed, Jake said during a particularly brutal 2 a.m. shift. We're all stressed, Sarah snapped back, immediately regretting her tone. Then came the night everything changed. It was 3:17 a.m. Sarah had just gotten Emma back to sleep after an hour of crying. She placed her daughter in the crib with the practiced slowness of someone defusing a bomb, holding her breath as she backed out of the room. She was halfway down the hallway when she heard it. Not Emma, not Jake. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, coming up the stairs. Sarah's heart stopped. The baby gate. How did... She spun around, and there he was. Brutus. All 190 pounds of him, standing in Emma's doorway. In the dim glow of the nightlight, his shadow stretched across the nursery floor like something from a nightmare.
"No," Sarah whispered, rushing forward. "Brutus, no!" But he didn't move, didn't turn. His massive head was lowered toward Emma's crib, his body perfectly still. Sarah's hands shook as she approached, ready to grab his collar to pull him away from her baby. But then she saw it. Emma's blanket had shifted during the crying fit. One corner had fallen across her face, covering her nose and mouth. Not enough to suffocate her, not yet, but close, dangerous, potentially deadly. And Brutus had positioned himself between the crib and the door, his eyes locked on that misplaced blanket, his body language screaming alert. Sarah's breath caught. She carefully adjusted the blanket, moving it away from Emma's face. Emma stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Brutus's tail wagged once, twice. Then he turned and walked back downstairs, his job complete. Sarah followed him with trembling legs. She found him at his usual post by the baby gate, which she now noticed had a bent corner where his powerful shoulder had pushed it open. She sat down beside him on the floor, her back against the wall. Brutus glanced at her, then returned his gaze to the stairs. "You knew," Sarah whispered. "You knew she needed help." That night, they moved Brutus's bed into Emma's nursery. No more gates, no more restrictions, no more fear. Because Sarah finally understood what Jake had tried to tell her from the beginning. Brutus didn't see Emma as a threat to manage or an obstacle to tolerate. He saw her as his puppy, his pack, his purpose. And there's no force more protective than a parent who's finally found something worth protecting.